Hey Jackal! In this video, I'll show you how to make an event promo template in DaVinci Resolve by using the Fusion page so that you can use the template in the edit page and not just use a bunch of videos like I have done in this example. Now let's get digital. As you can see from this example, I have a bunch of videos, I have transitions between them, and I have a bunch of texts. Now what's good about this approach is that you can basically use any transition and any titles that you have, simply change them, but the downside is that this is not a template. So what I'll show you is how to make a template and that you'll also be able to change the content of the template. Not just the text, but also the video files and images. So to achieve that, go to the media pool, right click, make a new Fusion composition. You can give it a name if you want. I'll change the duration to 15 seconds. Now ideally, all of the video clips that you'll be using in this template should also be 15 seconds long, just so you don't have any issues. Now I'll put the Fusion composition onto a timeline, and let's go into the Fusion page. Now I'll make a simple template and just use maybe 2 videos, but you can use as many as you want, because I don't want this composition to cache. I'll right click here, disable the high quality, disable motion blur, go to playback, set resolution to quarter, and also render cache, I'll select none, and purge the cache. Now I can trim it, so it starts at a different position. I could also loop it. And if you don't want the video to start at the beginning, you can also delay it by using the time speed node and simply adjust the delay. So if I use 200 and display it on right, you can see that this video, the media in, now stops at frame 66, but this one will start at frame 200 and go for 66 frames. So this is something that you can use, and I have a second clip, and this one goes all the way from the beginning to the end. And you can also use images, I'll just use this one. Now if you make the template inside the Fusion page, the downside is that you can't use all of the awesome transitions and titles that you have in the edit page, so you'll have to make your own. Now to make a transitions between the two media ins, we don't really want to merge them, because we want to adjust when the transition will happen. So we'll use a dissolve node, connect both medias, and now in the dissolve, we'll be adjusting the background and the foreground. As you can see, nothing happens, and that's because this media in, the one with the car, ends here. So you have to set the transition accordingly, and also the resolution must be the same if you want a nice looking transition. This can be done in a couple of ways. One is to use a resize node, and you should connect it to both videos if you want to make this into a template. Now the resize will automatically resize the videos to the resolution of the project resolution. So whatever you have here, this is the resolution that the resize will have. But you can also adjust it to anything that you want. So this is done, and now when we use the dissolve, we'll have a clean transition. And now we just have to specify when this transition happens. So at 1:19, this video ends, but we could also go maybe to 60 and do the transition here. And we can do it manually, like this, and apply any kind of other effects, maybe blurs, transforms, and this will basically be the transition between these two videos. So at this point, we could maybe adjust the size in the middle. So maybe increase the size like that. To smooth the animations out, select the nodes that have the keyframes. You can go to the keyframes to adjust them. Hold Ctrl and use the scroll wheel on the mouse, move them around. If the selection is like this, you'll basically move all of the keyframes. So click away if you want to make the adjustments. And to smooth the animation out, you'll go to the spline. I suggest you use this show only selected tool options, otherwise all of the nodes will be listed, and then simply select the property that you want to adjust. Click zoom to fit, select the points, and press S to smooth the curves. And you can also adjust it inside here. The same goes with the dissolve. Select the points, S, and we have a smooth transition. Now I could add blur to this video and maybe also some glow. So the blur won't be always present. So we can keyframe the value at this point and it goes to 75. And again, we can smooth this out. Now we could add some text here, and actually what we want is for the color to be at the beginning, because it's a shorter clip. So I'll simply select the dissolve node and hit Ctrl T to switch between these two inputs. And now because I've used the blur node down here, I also have to set the value back to 0. And actually the value should go from a high value to 0. Now because this clip is longer and happens after the transition, I'll add the text to this one. So add the text, add text here, type something in, change the font to what you want. If you don't have a lot of them, I suggest you use something like font base, which is a font manager, and you can use any other manager if you want. Though in this case, you will have to launch the font manager before you launch DaVinci Resolve, because the fonts aren't actually installed on the PC. Now inside the edit page, what you can do is simply select a part of the text and change any of the options. This is not the case inside the Fusion page, as you can see, but what you can do is right click inside the field and select character level styling. Now go to the modifiers and select a part of the text and change the color, just like you can in the edit page. Change the size, change the font. The line spacing doesn't work here, but you can go back and adjust it here and adjust the position. So we can go to the layout and do all kinds of animations that you want. So in this case, we would maybe animate the merge. The merge will affect the text as it has the foreground input. So we could adjust the blend to blend it in. We could also adjust the size to make it pop out a little. But if you don't want the text to pop out in this way, you can add the transform because it has a pivot point, and instead use the transform to animate it and adjust the pivot. So I've set the pivot point to the bottom of the view. And now if I make this text small and big, you can see that it will pop out from the pivot point. So I can make the size small, keyframe it, go to here, make it a bit big, bigger than 1, and then come back down to 1. And if you don't like the animation, we can always come to the spline, smooth it out, and adjust the position. You can do this in the spline editor, but it's a little bit easier to position just the keyframes if you like how the values are in the keyframes. Now we can add some graphical elements to this. So maybe I'll add a rectangle down here, and we need a background node. By default, this will be black. By display it's like this. I can simply move the rectangle, set the width to 1. Now you can do the animations in the rectangle, but if you want, you can also use a transfer node. It will do the same thing, it just depends what you like to use more. Now in the background node, I'll just change the color to view, so it will be the same. And I can lower the opacity maybe to 0.7. So we'll have enjoyed the view. And then maybe from this point on, I'll start doing the animation. And I'll also set the height to 1. And maybe I can also change the color. So I'll also be animating the alpha at some point. So at this point, I'll be adjusting the center position. And maybe also do it in the height. I'll see how that will go. So at this point, it will come back to 0.5. So it will fill up the whole screen. And then from this point on, the animation that I wanted to do, it would be ideal to use the transfer node because it has the pivot point. I'll just use it without. So from this point on, let's say that it will move to here. So basically, this is 1. And I want to adjust the height. And I'll also lower the opacity. So keyframe the alpha. And keyframe the alpha here to 0.7. Something like that. And we can move the text down. Maybe we can start moving it at this point. So this is what I have at the moment. This is how you add videos, make a transition between them, add some text, and add some graphical elements. When it comes to the graphical elements, you also have the ellipse and the polygon, so you can make custom shapes. In the polygon, you can also right-click, go to Effect Mask, and select Triangle to get an automatic triangle. If you wanted to, you could also go to Effects, Tools, Shapes, and use the shapes. In this case, you can just connect it to the media out. As you can see, you do need to use the render node to render this out. So you can see the stir. So if you want to have something like this, you can. And you can also, instead of the stir, use an n-gon. If you want to adjust how many sides you want. And you also get a triangle, rectangle, and you can make some cuts by using the s-boolean. So if you use an s-boolean, let's use an n-gon, just so you can see, and an ellipse. And I'll change the operation to subtract. And of course adjust the position of one of the elements. So this is how you can make graphical elements. The last thing that I have is a logo. You would also use a transfer node here to adjust the position and the size, which also allows you to animate it. Now if you want to change the color of the logo or an image, you can use a bitmap. You would then maybe go to luminance to make it black and white, use a background node, and change the color to whatever you want. And you can also use a gradient if that is what you need. Now when it comes to the medias, if I connect it to the bitmap, you'll see that the media will actually jump from this place to this place. So you should always use some kind of a resize node or a background node combination so that it is actually at the same resolution. The backgrounds are automatically set to the resolution of the project. I suggest you use a background node, set the alpha to 0 so that it will be transparent. And this one could also be at the end, like here. And it is the same, as you can see. Now I'll leave all of the animations up to you, otherwise this video will be super long. But what you can do, after you have everything done, and you spend a lot of time doing it, is you can make a template. Now you will select all of the nodes except for the media out, even the media ins, because you want to be able to replace these nodes and also the logo. Then right click on the last node in the composition, this one being the merge 4 in this case, go to macro and make one. Now because I've just selected the nodes randomly, I'll have to look over them, what they actually are. I have the media in 1. What you want to enable is the clip name. If you enable this, then once you put the template inside the edit page, you'll simply be able to drag the clip that you have in the media pool inside of this field and change it. So we'll do that for the media in 1 and the same for media in 2. So in the transform, I've animated the size. Now because this transform is a part of the effect, if I would enable the size, then I would also be changing the animation. So in this case, I'll just leave everything as is. I'll also leave the dissolve as is. Then we have the text. So in the text, you can change the stylized text. So this is the stylized text. You have the font. You have the font style. You have the font color. You have to enable all of them. Then you have the font size and all of the other options if you want to enable them. We then also have the position, so we can adjust that. But this is located under the layout, so I'll close the text. Layout. We have the center. And I think that is it. We then have the character level styling. Styling 1. So maybe let's enable these two options. So we have the text and the font, style, and the color. They should really be the same, but we'll see if this actually works in the edit page. Then we have the mask. In the mask, maybe we would change the color, so this is background 1. We have the type. If you want to change the type to any of these options, change the color. If you just want the solid color, select these options. If you want the gradient, and if you want to have the four-corner gradient, you will have to select all of the four options for the color, and also the gradient type, and start and end, so that if you change this to a gradient, you will have the start and end options. And also use the gradient option here. Then I have the media in 3. Again, this will be a clip. So even though I've used a logo, which was an image, this can be anything. So you can also use a video. And so you know what this actually is. It's not a clip name. You can type in logo, and this will be visible in the template. So we can enable any of the options that we want to be able to change. Now that's it. All we have to do is save it. Go to File, use Save as Group. Use the Save as Group so that anytime you come back, you'll have all of the nodes visible and you can make changes to them. Go to Fusion, Templates, Edit. This will be a title. Give it a name. Once the template is saved, go to the edit page, open the effects, type in the name, and you should see it under the titles. So I do see it. I'll put it onto a timeline. Now by default, this is only 5 seconds long, and that is because if I go to Preferences, under the user editing, we have the general settings, and as you can see, the standard durations reset to 5 seconds. So if you want anything to be longer than this, simply increase the value. Otherwise, you can extend the clip. And let's see how it looks like. Now I didn't go over the template as I should have done, so immediately what stands out is the logo. I didn't really want to have it visible the whole time, so I'd have to fix the animation. But we do have the transition, and we do have the text and this simple animation. Now this is all good, it works, but it only works because I have it in the same project. Now when you go to the inspector, you should see the clip name. We do. This is the black car. I'll simply put another clip in. Now because I selected the nodes randomly before I made the macro, all of them are in random order. So I have the clip name and the logo on the bottom, as you can see. Otherwise, I would also have these two options at the top. But let me put in this video clip. And instead of the logo, I can also use a video clip. So maybe I'll use this one. So now instead of a logo, I have a video clip constantly playing here. The transition did happen. As you could see, the text is the same. Now I have two texts. The first one is the normal text, and this is the character stylized text. Now I'll see if there is actually any difference between the two. This one changes the whole text. Now this character level styling doesn't work, or at least it's not intuitive to me to figure it out how it does. But even if it doesn't, I have another solution. Because I've used Save as Group, I can come to this button, which will take me into the Fusion page, double click on the macro tool, As you can see, I now have access to all of the nodes and I can make all of the changes that I need. And now just so you can see, this actually works in other projects. Let me just make a new one. So this template is here. I can put it on. I don't have any media. As I said, this is because the video files are not inside this project. So I need to add some media. I'll just use images. And let's see how it works with images that are not the same resolution. So we have the logo, we have the image, we have a transition into another image, and we have the animation. And what you can also do is change the resolution. So let's make a new timeline. We can maybe change this one to be a vertical one, and it will be for IG or something, so 1080 by 1920. We can make it, we can put the template on. Actually, I'll just copy the one from this timeline, since it has the files in. What you could do is have a bunch of different templates, each one for a different resolution, or you can just come back into the Fusion page. In this case, what I could do is use a bit of math, because what I want to achieve is basically go from this resolution to this one. So what you need is scale this value, 1440 to 1920, which is this, and this one would have to be proportional. So you can either do the math or just eyeball it until it looks good, and do the same with this one. So instead of you doing this manually all of the time, it's just best if you do a couple of templates and simply put the video clips on that you need. And that's it. If you found the video helpful, give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and until next time, jackals, keep it digital.